Hi everyone, this is the 2021 Year in Review webinar from the Global Warming Mitigation Project. My name is Emily Graves and I'm the Communications Director at GWMP. I'm going to go through a couple of housekeeping items before I hand it over to the panelists today. First off, everyone in the audience is muted and you can use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen to type out any questions about anything you hear today and want to know more about. For the sake of time, we're going to aim to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. You can also download a copy of our 2021 annual report in the handout section of your control panel. Before we get started with the presentation, I have a few brief poll questions for the audience today. The first is, how did you hear about GWMP? I'll mute for about 30 seconds while we wait for everybody to answer. All right, thank you everyone. Our next poll question is, which tagline best describes how you view GWMP? I'll mute again for about 30 seconds while we give everyone a chance to answer. Thanks everyone for answering all our poll questions today. I'll now hand things over to our Executive Director, Jackie Francis, to introduce today's speakers.
Thank you so much, Emily, and welcome everyone. I'm Jackie Francis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Global Warming Mitigation Project. And I truly believe change is exciting and that humanity can get to a place where we don't depend on fossil fuels anymore. In today's webinar, I'll be introducing our 2021 annual report, and it was an impressive year. I hope you'll take some time to read the entire report and make sure to look at all the updates from our laureates. Emily has summarized many of our 40 laureates' important announcements in 2021, and it's incredibly refreshing to see their progress. Presenting with me today are some of the people who made our 2021 year so impressive. Gabriela, Hernandes, Villani will be telling us a little about the Constellations program. This GWMP program pairs individuals looking to enter climate careers with organizations that have applied to be in our Keeling Curve Prize application pool. Gabriela worked with 2020 Keeling Curve Prize winner, the Generation Forest, and she'll describe the Generation Forest's work and her role as an intern. Both Karyn, Knox, and Satre-Meloy have joined our Keeling Curve Prize family as 2021 winners of the award. Karyn is the Chief Development and Partnerships Officer of the Educated Choices program. They won in our Social and Cultural Pathways category. And Sam runs CLIP. They won in the Transportation and Mobility category. So they'll both be telling you more about their organizations and how winning the prize has made their lives better. Aven Satre-Meloy, the KCP lead analyst, not only helped me design the analyst process over 4 years ago, but he also started as an analyst back then, and now he helps run the entire process, making my life better. Aven will give you a quick peek behind the analysis curtain. Today's agenda includes a brief overview of some of last year's highlights. Gabrielle will share her Constellations experience, Karyn and Sam are sharing a bit about their organizations, Aven will explain a bit about our Keeling Curve Prize process, and then it's your turn to answer questions. Sorry, I jumped ahead on that slide. Okay, next slide. Some of the highlights I'd like to touch on today are events we participated in last year, where we've added and are improving on our programs like the Investment Conduit and Constellations Internship Program. I'll introduce the new teammates, and I'll have a quick overview of our financial growth. Currently, we are moving from a proof of concept to an internationally respected organization with a promising future. Next slide. So in November, I attended my first Conference of the Parties in Glasgow. As you can see, it was the 26th COP, so I'm a little late to the party, but GWMP did raise some financial support to include a diverse delegation that joined me, and this included Grammy-nominated musician Rocky Dewoni. This helped us expand our network, elevate our profile, and learn much more about the international climate regulatory procedures and the landscape. Next slide. During the summer, we managed to have an entertaining in-person Keeling Curve Prize winners announcement and ceremony in Monterey, California on the evening before the annual TED conference. And let me tell you, it's not easy to put on a live show, but we managed to make it work. Winners from all around the world joined us virtually, with a few attending in person, and it was quite fun. Next slide. So one of the things I get asked quite often is, we see the winners and finalists, but what else do you see? And the answer is a lot. This question has led to the beginning of what we are calling the Climate Impact Conduit. We intend to connect the dots between worthy climate projects and programs and investors, money managers, and philanthropists. There's a lot to explore with this conduit program, but we have an incredible database of applicants that have applied for the prize, and it's just full of opportunities. Next slide. So we are growing. Staffing needs exploded, and we added Paige Atchison, our development director, Sage Middleton, who's the Constellations Manager and Development Assistant, Emily Graves, Communication Director, Sarah Pooler as Operations Manager, and Lena Catrite, Communications Intern. For the Advisory Council, which is the high-level group that helps me define the categories and scope of the Keeling Curve Prize, we added IPCC lead author and associate professor at the University of Arizona, Jessica Tierney. And Jessica's expertise is in climate paleontology, which is just fascinating to me. The Navigation Council, which is my go-to group for specific advice or guidance, we added TED Science Curator David Bielo. And new additions to the Keeling Curve Prize Analyst Team were Damiana Serafini and Astrid Rojarjo. On the board, we just started expanding our board, and we added Andre Ruchtenstein, Jonathan Silver, and David Bookbinder to the GWMP board and created a social networking group called the Circuit Board. So our initial Circuit Board members are Paul Miller, Eric Rigsby, and Chris Coulon. Next slide. So towards the end of the year, we ran our first successful targeted fundraising campaign. The new staff was completely fired up and created a campaign for funding the Constellations internship program. So after raising over $66,000, we have made the program a paid fellowship and hope this keeps the program on track and thriving into the future. Thanks, the staff did a great job with this. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, the GWMP and the Keeling Curve Prize began as an idea where prestige and incentives could both inspire and activate organizations working to bring down global carbon emissions. 2021 demonstrated that what started as an idea is becoming a viable reality. Through a robust process, we know how to pick winners, and our concept of activating and accelerating emissions reductions programs and projects around the world is working. We are growing and diversifying our funding. We are right now financially solid and highly motivated moving into 2022. Next slide. In learning more about the value of our programs, let's hear from Gabriela about the Constellations program.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Gabriela. I am an environmental engineer from Brazil, and so I participated in the Constellations program last year. So I was a research and development intern at the Generation Forest Group, that is a tropical forest investment management firm, which has developed the Generation Forest concept and aims to reforest more than 1,000 hectares in Panama, promoting sustainable forest management, innovative silvicultural practices, and sequestrating more than 2 trillion tons of CO2 throughout its lifetime. Next, please. So as a R&D intern, I was responsible for preparing an innovation and technology roadmap and conduct an in-depth research on innovations and technologies for scaling the reforestation and forest operations to a higher level. Next, please. So I developed a QGIS manual in English and Spanish for the field workers learn how to use this geoprocessing software. I conduct a market research about forest technology and supplies in the Brazilian market, which is a market closer to Panama. And also, I supported the development and review on the carbon project, which was in its final stage at that time. Next, please. So the result helped to improve the operations and process regarding the forest monitoring and data, mechanization, logistics, scale, and efficient. So it was a really great experience that helped me to decide my next career steps. And now I'm focused my career on the reforestation market, as I really enjoy to work in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela, and thanks for being a valuable member of our Constellations program. I really can't emphasize enough the feedback I get from organizations that are getting Constellations and the value they get. Winners have told me that they're not sure which is better, winning the prize or getting a Constellations intern. It's become something that I'm very proud that we've got that as an offering for helping our laureates moving into the future. So now I want to introduce you to two of our 2021 Keeling Curve Prize laureates. First is Karyn Knox, the Chief Development and Partnership Officer for Educated Choices. Thanks for joining us, Karyn. Take it away.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for having me today. Hello, everyone. As Jackie mentioned, I'm here representing the Educated Choices program. We are a 2021 Keeling Curve Prize laureate in the category of Social and Cultural Pathways. My name is Karyn Knox, and I'm the Chief Development and Partnerships Officer here at ECP. Our mission is to provide science-based education about the impact of food choices, empowering current and future consumers and leaders to help create a healthier, more sustainable food system for all. Our vision is societies in which all community members are equipped with the knowledge of how their individual food choices impact health and environmental issues worldwide, leading to improved personal and planetary health. Next. As a 501c3 academic nonprofit, we offer complementary science-based education programs to schools and communities throughout the US, Canada, Germany, and the UK, with a launch in Latin America and Australia scheduled for 2022. Our current programs discuss the impact of food choices and the current food system on human and planetary health. Next. We have successfully reached over 2.3 million students and community members since our inception in 2016, 500,000 of those in 2021 alone. With the recent launch of our new global English presentation, we are poised to build upon this number rapidly with additional international expansion. Next. At ECP, we believe that education is a right, and that the empowerment of today's and tomorrow's consumers has the power to lead us into a healthier and more sustainable future. We believe that we all share the responsibility to leave the world better than we found it, and this sense of duty drives us to work harder each day to provide impactful programs. Next. To ensure that we do so, we collect and analyze survey data from all of our participants to track the efficacy of our presentations and in turn make adjustments to messaging, delivery methods, and activities accordingly. Next. We are also committed to inclusivity, both inside our organization and in our educational programs. Our ARDI committee, Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, focuses on not only creating a just and equitable work environment for our employees, but also ensuring that our programmatic materials are representative of and sensitive to the challenges, traditions, and beliefs of our unique audiences, thus increasing our effectiveness. We pride ourselves on honesty and transparency in our organization, and we strive for excellence in all that we do. Next. The link between our current food choices and climate change is easy to see, but largely unknown to many. The consumption of natural resources and the degradation of others resulting from our current food system is simply unsustainable. Animal excrement and agricultural runoff are polluting our freshwater ecosystems, and rainforests are being destroyed to produce livestock feed that meets the growing demand for meat and dairy products. This deforestation leads to increased speed and severity of global warming and reduction of biodiversity. Next. Not only is our current food system responsible for about a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions, it is also highly inefficient in feeding our growing population. Next. 2,000 calories, the average recommended daily intake for adults of food or grain grown when fed to a cow only produces 60 calories of beef. This is a 97% loss of calories. This is inefficiency. Next. Professor Joseph Poore from the University of Oxford, a leading research scientist in the field of agriculture and its environmental impact, is quoted as saying, "Making responsible food choices is the single most impactful action an individual can take in the efforts to mitigate climate change. And we at ECP have proven that education is the foundation from which to build a more sustainable food system by way of behavioral change and consumer demand." Next. The numbers are in. According to the third-party data analysis team who evaluates our survey data, 52% of participants who view our programs make healthful and environmentally sustainable changes to their food choices post-presentation. With our current reach of 500,000 students per year, that equates to 260,000 individuals who improved their diets in efforts to subsequently improve their health and that of the planet. Next. Utilizing the USDA footprints by diet type formula, we can estimate the resulting greenhouse gas emissions reduction. When those 260,000 students reduce or eliminate meat from their diets, it results in a total reduction of 156,000 tons of CO2 per year. This number will continue to increase thanks to being chosen as a Keeling Curve Prize laureate. Next. This honor has impacted our organization in many ways, including assisting with our international expansion, bringing us global recognition in the environmental space, resulting in new strategic partnerships, and inspiring multiple new sustainability-focused education initiatives. Next. The grant funds themselves allowed us to hire our new Latin America program manager, who is based in Chile. Research for and translation of new presentations are underway, and contact databases are being built. We are set to launch in the summer of 2022, starting in Peru, Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia. Next. The recognition of the award has allowed us to engage in partnership and collaboration discussions with well-known environmental nonprofits and philanthropists, and has brought additional bookings for our presentations from climate change-focused participants. Next. Winning the Keeling Curve Prize has also inspired us to further increase our focus on the environmental importance of food system reform by way of consumer education. We are in the planning and development phases of multiple educational programs and resources to address food system sustainability, going beyond food choices, and also including discussions surrounding food waste and food loss. These initiatives include local grassroots efforts and global projects to educate countries and communities we have yet to reach. Next. If you're interested in learning more about our work, please visit our website or reach out to me directly. I would love to connect and discuss what the future holds for ECP. We at the Educated Choices Program are honored to have been named a 2021 Keeling Curve Prize Laureate, and we're committed to continuing our efforts to improve planetary health through education. We truly appreciate all of you for making this opportunity possible. Thank you so much.
That was just such fabulous information, and I am thrilled that we could be part of your international expansion and your new initiatives. Excellent, excellent work, Karyn. Thank you. During COVID, many of the transportation and mobility applications we received were about bikes or biking. This one zoomed to the top, and I think you'll see why. I'd like to introduce Satre-Meloy, the CEO and founder of Clip, and also a 2021 KCP laureate. Take it away, Sam.
Thank you, Jackie. So great to be here. Hi, everyone. I am Som, CEO of a clean mobility startup called Clip. Our goal is to help accelerate bike adoption in cities by providing e-bike functionality at a fraction of the cost and complexity, and help bring the Keeling curve down. To this end, we are building the world's first instant e-bike upgrade. No tools required. It packs 15 miles per hour of ride assist power, easily carried in a backpack and charged from your desk. Next slide, please. Now, we all know that transportation adds 24% of total CO2 emissions globally. Urban passenger transport adds up to 11% of that total CO2 emissions. Now, given half of our urban trips are 3 miles or less, switching to bicycles is easy and can remove up to 5% of total CO2 emissions from the world. That comes to around 400 million tons of CO2 every year. Now, considering emissions must drop 7.6% per year from 2020 to 2030 to keep temperatures from exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius, by simply switching to bicycle, we can easily take care of up to 70% of this goal set by the UN Climate Action Group. Next slide, please. Now, although the bicycle design is almost 200 years old, our thesis is that Clip is the way into the future for all bicycles. Not heavy, expensive e-bikes, but a simpler upgrade that retains the original experience of bicycling and yet offers the flexibility to upgrade it to an e-bike whenever necessary. Next slide, please. Now, we designed Clip to empower more people to ride their bikes to work and around the city without arriving exhausted or sweaty. Now, I'd like to share how easy Clip is to install. In this video, you'll see my co-founder, Clem, installing the device on a regular commuter bike. Thanks, Emily. And this video was shot at our lab at the new lab where I'm at. We do a lot of our testing in the big space here. The next video is a kind of showing this device and letting a lot of our users, customers, and people kind of demo it for the first time. And it's fantastic to see the joy that they kind of get from it.
That's pretty awesome, honestly. Great! Love it! Very cool. Definitely got a nice pickup there. That's great. You can really feel like it just tows you. It's getting cold. Really nice.
Thank you, Emily. The next slide, please. So, as part of our mission to kind of provide e-bike functionality at, a fraction of the cost, it has been important to keep it easy to use and affordable to everyone. Clip is about 4 times less expensive than a decent e-bike. Next slide, please. Now, our ambition and scope for this project is global, but we are sorry, one slide before. So the Keeling Curve Prize has helped focus a serious spotlight on Clip as a serious and impactful contender in driving down global greenhouse gas emissions. We were part of the inventions, the best inventions at the Times Best Invention list. We were part of the best product designs from Fast Company. So we've been able to kind of really sort of get a lot of great sort of press through this opportunity. The next slide, please. Now, our ambition and scope for this project is global, but we are starting here at home in the US because once we are based here, but also because the US is the largest sort of contributor to CO2 emissions globally. And we know that the transportation sector is the largest contributor to emissions, responsible for about 29% of these emissions. Now, we start this work by helping the 45 million people who we know kind of from studies that rode a bike once during the past years for purposes of transportation. Now, imagine the impact we could have by helping them switch over to bicycles for the majority of their urban commutes. The next slide, please. In fact, the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute commissioned a study to understand the potential greenhouse gas emission savings taking into account the number of commuters who are most likely to make the switch to Clip. The result could be 13,000 metric tons of CO2 in New York City alone. Next slide, please. We like to work with bicycle advocates at corporations who would like to enable their employees to ride the bike to work. Please get in touch with me if you would like to pilot Clip on your campus with your employees. We are honored to be part of the Keeling Curve family. I am Som, and I'd love to collaborate on this fantastic mission to help bring the Keeling Curve down. Thank you.
Thank you, Som. It's just amazing. I love Clip. And I just want to add, doesn't everyone want a Clip for your bike? I happen to love biking, and I think there's also a lot of co-benefits there. Biking just makes me happy. So there's a huge co-benefit with biking. So now I'm going to introduce Aven Satre-Meloy. He is the lead analyst for the Keeling Curve Prize and has led our assessment and review process for the prize since its inception. In his day job, Aven is a research scientist at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, where he researches pathways to a net zero energy system. Okay, Aven, show us how it's done.
Great, thank you, Jackie. Hello, everyone. And special thanks to Karyn and Som for joining us today and sharing more about your work. It's really great to hear firsthand from our laureates how the prize has helped you further your efforts and the reach of your organizations. And I'm really excited to see where the next years take both of you and your organizations, and hopefully finding out where I can maybe get a Clip bike of my own. My name is Aven Satre-Meloy, as Jackie mentioned, and I lead our KCP assessment and selection process. And today I'm going to share a little bit more about that process with you all, as well as discuss a few highlights from the 2021 KCP laureates and give you a brief look ahead at the 2022 KCP. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to start with is just an overview of our application process. And this is a fairly involved process, invites a lot of different experts to contribute. We think that this really benefits the prize's legitimacy and also the diligence of our selections. So you'll see each step in the process on this slide, and I'm briefly going to step through each of these and explain how the process works from the moment that the application portal closes to the day that we announce the laureates. Next slide, please. The first 3 parts of the process are probably the most involved from an assessment standpoint. I'm going to discuss these 3 together. The first is our initial application review, wherein we have a team of expert analysts working across many different sectors and geographic contexts, diligently assess each application across a number of key evaluative criteria. So you can see the analysts for the 2021 KCP here, and you can read more about these experts on our website. But suffice to say that with how geographically diverse this group is, really the biggest challenge we face each year is just finding a time where we can meet virtually, given all the time zones that we're spread across. And on the right side of the slide, you can see the application evaluation criteria. I mentioned that we evaluate each application holistically across a number of different criteria, and those are shown here. I'm just going to briefly touch on each of these. The first is the strength of the solution and the scientific evidence that supports it. The second is the greenhouse gas reduction potential, which we evaluate both in terms of the methodology and the evidence that's provided to support the estimates of greenhouse gas reduction potential, as well as the actual number or range of estimates that are given. Next is the strength of the team and their network. And this is really based on an expectation of ours that achieving broad scale and impact for a given solution does truly require a strong team and a supporting network. And so that's an important component of our evaluation. Next, we look at market potential and the feasibility of a given solution, as well as it for that project or solution to scale in both the near or longer term. And finally, you'll see the last wedge there. That's where we consider co-benefits of a solution, such as whether it delivers benefits to historically disadvantaged populations, perhaps provides economic empowerment to those who are traditionally underrepresented in climate mitigation work, or addresses any of the other UN Sustainable Development Goals. So using these criteria and a number of more detailed sub-criteria, we have a quantitative evaluation approach where we arrive at a short list of applications. And then the next part of the process is very detailed discussions with the analyst group to arrive at our 20 finalists for the prize. And if you go to the next slide, please, before I talk about the next parts of our process there, I just want to recap what we saw from our applicant pool in 2021. So last year we had a record 360 applicants that were spread across our 5 categories. You can see the 5 categories here on the slide along with the count of applications in each category. And as you'll see, the majority of applications come in the energy and social and cultural pathways categories. And that's historically the case. So we've been revising our outreach strategy based on this to try and get more applications from underrepresented categories, such as finance and transport and mobility. In terms of the geographic spread of our applications, you'll see that we receive applications from a wide range of countries. In fact, more than 70 countries had applications to the prize. And you can see those highlighted on the map here. A majority of the applications came from organizations that were based in the US, as you see there on the top countries list. But in many cases, I want to make clear that these organizations could have been working on projects that were located elsewhere in the world. And similar to what I mentioned previously, we definitely use these data to help inform where we need to do more outreach to increasingly diversify our applicant pool. Next slide, please. Okay, so with that recap, I'll just return briefly to our process, and there are several more important steps after we announce the finalists, but before we select and announce the winners. And the first part of that is an additional period of review and due diligence from which we draw support and insight from our advisory council. And you can see the 2021 advisory council members here. You'll likely recognize a number of the names and institutions of many of these folks. This is quite an impressive group, and we're really fortunate for their input on the KCP, not just at this stage, but as Jackie said, for the overall design of the prize itself. Next slide, please. And then the final step in the process is what I think makes our prize particularly unique, which is an international panel of experts weigh in to judge the finalists and select the 10 winners of the prize. You can see those individuals here, and as with our advisory council, this is just an exceptional group. I'm humbled by how impressive these members are, and this panelist, the judging panel changes from year to year, so we invite new members to join, and they together will vote on the finalists and arrive at our laureates. And so the next slide will show at the end of the annual cycle what we end up with is our 10 laureates across the 5 categories. And we announce these at our annual award ceremony. And you can see the logos for the awardees for 2021. And you've already gotten to hear from 2 of our laureates, so I won't add too much to what they've said, other than just to highlight one of the strengths of our prize, which in my opinion is that we have such a variety of project and organization types. These can range from nonprofit and advocacy groups to much more hard tech focused innovations from startups. And just to briefly touch on some of the areas that these groups are working on or the climate challenges that they're tackling, You can see the 2021 laureates here, and I'll just mention a couple of these areas. So one is developing battery technologies that directly utilize industrial captured CO2. Another is addressing ocean health and expanding the sequestration capacity of the oceans. Many of these organizations are focused on bringing clean energy or sustainable clean cooling or even clean cooking solutions to communities around the world who need them most. As you heard from our laureate, Karyn, the Educated Choices program is working on helping kids choose healthier and lower carbon nutritional options in schools. And then several of our others, as some identified the work that they're doing, they're developing innovative solutions for local and low carbon transportation options in both developed and in developing country contexts. So you can see the organizations are covering a wide range of climate problems. And while they're all working on different challenges to help bend the Keeling curve, they also all share a number of qualities that make them rise to the top. These include a clear track record of impact, a spirit of inventiveness and creativity, which they will agree is very necessary in order to address incredibly complex climate challenges. And then these groups are really common in that they have amazingly impressive teams and support networks that enable their solutions to flourish. Go to the next slide, please. So before handing back to Jackie, I just quickly want to mention that for the 2022 KCP, we made a change to one of our categories. We changed the carbon capture and utilization category to what we are now calling the carbon sinks, natural and engineered category. And this, in our opinion, reflects a more holistic category of solutions that's more inclusive of natural or nature-based climate solutions for carbon drawdown. And we encourage those applications this year. And we also considerably expanded our analyst team. And you can see the 5 individuals here who we added to the analyst team. They will all help us continue to have a very robust and scientific approach for evaluating and selecting our finalists each year. And this is ever more important as the prize gets increasingly competitive and we have increasingly impressive applicants each year. So we look forward to announcing our finalists and laureates for the prize this year. And we hope that you will all tune in to those announcements and also support these amazing organizations and their ideas in the months ahead. All right, Jackie, back to you.
Thank you, Aven. That was just a wonderful description of our process. And I'm really excited to see how we are expanding this year. We actually have, so the analyst team is going to be 12 strong, which is so exciting to me because it's a really amazing group of very, very intelligent people. So now I'm going to send it back to Emily to lead us in the question and answer session.
Thanks, Jackie. For everyone in the audience, you can now use the chat box to send in any questions for our panelists today. And I will just take a moment to organize questions and then we'll get started. All right, my first question is for you, Jackie. How does GWMP support and engage a growing community of KCP finalists and laureates?
That's a great question. So we started with just the prize, but now we've expanded to include what we talked about earlier, the Constellations program. And the young people, it's not just young people, but people getting into climate careers. This helps them get an avenue to actually embark in climate careers. And then it really actually assists the applicants that didn't necessarily make it to the winners or finalists. So it's incredibly valuable there. And then our new investment conduit program, the climate conduit, is going to be designed in order to reach deeper into our database and connect more people with financial opportunities and promotional opportunities as well. And we're always kind of looking for more ways that we can activate and elevate the programs and projects around the world, because we feel like this is entirely an emergency and we have to look at the urgency with intelligence and commitment going forward. And it's something that, you know, we never forget that that is our mission.
Thank you so much, Jackie. My next question is for Aven. From your perspective, has the competitiveness of the prize increased through the years?
Yes, I think it definitely has. And that's not just in terms of the number of applications that we get, which has been steadily increasing since we launched, well, 5 years ago now, but also the quality of those applications. So it's certainly clear that the prize is gaining awareness among different communities. And so we also see, applications from countries that had not applied before as well. And that's great for us to see more diversity in the applicants. So across those fronts, we definitely see increasing competitiveness and quality of the applicants.
Great, thank you, Aven. My next question is for Soam. Is Clip currently on the market? Where can I buy one?
Excuse me. Yeah, it is in the market. So we are starting to deliver our very first units from this month onwards. So we are kind of like working on sending out the deliveries. You can go to clip.bike and you can place a pre-order if you would like. We will have the first 150 units that are already kind of sold out, which will be delivered, but the next batch will be coming around April. So please get in touch and you can pre-order there.
Thank you, Soam. Back to you, Jackie. Are there plans to increase the size of the Keeling Curve Prize? And if so, how do you see that affecting the impact of the prize?
Yes, there are plans to increase the size of the prize. We would actually like to get sponsors to sponsor the categories. As we said, we have 5 categories: energy, transport and mobility, social and cultural pathways, finance, and carbon sinks. And so we're looking for organizations that actually want to come in and help us sort of grow the size of the prize in order to grow, the impact that we can make. And the idea of growing the size of the prize just adds to, how we can elevate and activate the solutions out there. So it's just something that we want to add to what we can do, and also add to sort of what an organization can do that supports us, because it is actually getting money into climate action, which we feel like we have a legitimate way that's very effective to do that. So we would love to actually get more people involved in supporting the prize. And then we have plans to go on from there as well, because we need to get a lot of people involved in climate action right now.
Thank you, Jackie. My next question could be for either Jackie or Aven, or maybe if both of you want to add perspective to it. How are judges selected for each year's Keeling Curve Prize?
I don't know if Aven has the answer to that, so I'll let him go after me. So a lot of times what we do is we just reach out to organizations that we feel would be interested in this space, that have just a high level of expertise in our categories. And, sometimes it's somebody that I listen to at a conference that I'm just like, that person would be a fantastic judge. So it is kind of ask the advisory council, ask the analysts, and kind of sift through our network to see who has the right fit for the expertise. And I'll see if Aven has anything else that he wants to add to that.
Just to add that I think one of the things we hope for is to have judges representing much different constituencies around the world and different, geographic contexts, given that pathways to mitigation can vary so much, and that so many of our applicants are addressing solutions around the world. So it's great to have, diversity, geographic diversity, as well as subject matter diversity on the judging panel.
Great, thank you both. My next question is for you, Karyn. How does the feed to calorie ratio of chicken compare to beef? You have that?
That's a really great question. I don't have that math in front of me. I know that it is still a significant loss of calories. It is not as significant as beef. That's why we use that particular calculation to sort of drive that point home. But anytime that we are basically going through a middleman or a middle animal, for the lack of a better word, when we are growing a grain and we are feeding it to an animal and then we are therefore eating that animal, there is always a loss in that translation. So sadly, it's always going to be inefficient to do that. But there are obviously choices that are better than others.
Thank you, Karyn. Next question for you, Jackie, and then maybe it can go to Gabriela after Jackie. Do the Constellations interns often go on to pursue careers in the climate space, or do some continue to work with their host organization?
You know, it's pretty exciting because a lot of them actually do get hired by their host organizations. And I always, you know, just think that's an amazing route for them to go. Some of them I've actually seen go back to get like another graduate degree, like a PhD, and others do like get into climate careers. There's such a need out there for people to be more trained in this space. And it's an incredibly feel-good program to see how it works. You know, it's been really amazing to see the young people get the experience and then where they take it. And I'm seeing it go in a lot of different directions. It's fun when they get hired by the organizations, and it's also fun to see, you know, the other directions that they go. But almost always, I don't know anybody that doesn't do this in order to get into a climate career.
Gabriela, do you want to share any perspective on that question?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, as I really enjoy it to work on this new area that I didn't know before. Yeah, so I'm gonna focus my career now. Yes, I'm gonna start a new job on the reforestation area too. Yes, I was looking for another opportunities in that area and I got it. I'm gonna start soon it. So it was really important, this opportunity for me to know this new area, this new field of work that I didn't know before. So I could have this experience to really know how it works, what is involved. Carbon project is it's been a trend on the market nowadays. And so it was really good to know in practice how it works, this market.
Awesome, thank you both. Back to Aven, can you tell us more about each of the prize categories and what you're looking for in each?
Yeah, and I guess we don't have a slide that has all the categories listed. Definitely, I would encourage interested parties to take a look at our website where we have very detailed descriptions of all the prizes. We also, I think, are releasing an annual report that includes detail on the categories. I think what we look for is pretty consistent across categories, though, you know, there are some nuances for each category that we look into. For instance, you know, how much do we weight the carbon reduction potential of a given solution? It could be more so weighted in the carbon sinks category than in the social and cultural pathways category. And that's not to say that applications and organizations in the social cultural pathways category don't have clear climate or carbon benefits. I think Educated Choices program is a perfect example of the kind of carbon reduction benefit you can get from programs in that category. But it's also the case that sometimes it's much more challenging to quantify the carbon reduction potential for an organization that's focused on advocacy or climate activism or organizing, or a program that doesn't maybe have hard tech measurable, you know, drawdown potential. So that's just an example of how we look at the different categories. What we look for does vary a little bit, but the primary criteria that I showed on a previous slide identifies the criteria that we think are important for every organization and every application across the different categories. So that's what I would say. I really would encourage folks to take a look at the website for detailed descriptions of each of the categories. And yeah, I don't know, Jackie, if you wanted to add anything as well.
Scalability is one of the things we look at. We do have FAQs on our website as well that might help in that answering that question. It's very quantitative, but then we also get together and have a very qualitative conversation as well.
Great, thank you both for that insight. That leads us to our final question, and that is for you, Jackie. For those of us who don't live in the cities where you're planning to host events this year, what's the best way to support GWMP? Will you have more virtual events?
Yes, we do have more virtual events planned, and some of our finalist announcements and our winners announcements, we will have a virtual component as well. And there are many ways you can connect with us. You know, we can have one-on-one conversations. We do have our mailing, our newsletter, and we're accessible online, and we would be willing to connect with anyone, you know, in any way that they're looking to connect with us.
Thanks, Jackie. And thank you to all of our speakers today. Jackie, do you want to close us out?
Yes, I do. So I want to say that with everything going on in our world, I consider myself so lucky to be on the cutting edge of action, climate action, when it comes to the climate crisis. We work incredibly hard, but we believe strongly that our work will matter. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And thank you again for supporting the Global Warming Mitigation Project. We couldn't have done all of this without you. So looking ahead, we hope that you'll continue to be involved with GWMP. And we do have a number of private events coming up in Colorado, New York, and DC. And I'll also be in Seattle this spring. So if anyone's in those locations, we can get together. And we would love to have you join us in any of these locations. We'll be announcing the Keeling Curve Prize finalists this spring, and we'll be holding our 2022 awards ceremony in Germany this year, in July. This fall, we'll be holding our first ever laureate celebration as part of New York Climate Week, and we'll be inviting all our laureates, all 40, which will soon be 50 laureates. And we'd be thrilled to have our community of supporters, all of you, attend. So please let us know if you'd like to join us. Again, thank you for making our work possible. With your support, we're looking forward to an exceedingly successful 2022.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.